I was begged to stay silent, but I can't because they've bombed the last safe space in the Gaza Strip. The way that I have been feeling for the whole month of January, I want to scream from the depths of my soul. I don't want to exist on a planet where this can happen. I feel like I want to rip my skin off and peel my skin off. What is the state of humanity? I'm so frustrated. I don't even have the words to express how I feel. I feel like, and how I feel is not even important, but we are watching the one of the biggest injustices in history, and nothing is being done. So the rest of us who want to stand up for what the fuck type of justice do you think you're gonna get when they can't value basic human lives? What justice do we think we're gonna get to have autonomy over our own bodies when they can't respect human life? I've had this righteous scream in me for years now, and I think I've reached my cap. Because if I don't scream, I'll die. I'll vomit.
People are saying what she's talking about. She's talking about the Israel. She's speaking against Israel for the bombings in Gaza. That's what she's talking about.
And I didn't even want my spirit to be broken, because my spirit was broken for a good couple of weeks in January. You can see the change in my content. I didn't even post. What do we do? What do we do? Because what they basically want to happen is happening. They are using this as an excuse to kill thousands of people, to displace more people, so what, they can have the land and then we're just supposed to move on? You think a generation of us are not going to be spiteful? You think a generation of us are not going to be prejudiced? You think a generation of us are not going to have... What type of people are you making? The type of person that I am? She's gone. I'm forever changed by this. The minimum that I have been changed by is the number of death threats that I've received. The way that I move in the streets is different. The sense of awareness that I have is different. I don't come straight to my door. I sometimes do a loop around the block before I even come to my house. There are entire Telegram threads about people wanting to kill me for speaking up, for saying the truth. And they're still doing it. I don't have any words anymore. I genuinely don't have any words.
She has the watermelon also in her account, just to be clear. There's a lot to go through here. First of all, she starts by saying they bombed the last safe space. The way they talk about they bombed hospitals or bombing safe spaces, they act like the hospital was, or the safe space was, like bombarded, like turned into ashes. But every time they say that, when I go look at what happened, is that it was a targeted, like the areas that are evacuated, there are a lot more bombardments, and in places where there are people there, it's not, they say they bombed it as if they just turned it into ashes, like they bombed the whole thing and the hospital is not there anymore, or like 500 people were there and they're not all dead. They don't mention how targeted these things are. And I want to ask these people, do they think, if, for example, given that we know how Hamas uses these hospitals for operation, and given that the international pressure is on Israel to not bomb certain areas, and that's Hamas knows that, and Hamas uses exactly these sites as a base of operation, does that mean that Israel doesn't get to go after very key Hamas operatives as long as they are in certain areas? Like, is it like, oh, I'm in the hospital now, so you can't do like that? Wouldn't they just make the hospital their base of operations? Is as soon as a Hamas militia leader enters a hospital, now you can, and it's that person is there, and you know that if you target that person there right now, that would be a major advancement in achieving the military goal, does that mean that you cannot touch them anymore? You have to understand that when it comes to international law and Geneva Conventions, when hospitals and certain safe spaces are being used for military objectives, they lose their protective status under international law, right? So that means that, again, in a reasonable, as long as reasonable measures are being taken into account to not make the civilian casualty very high, to try to do whatever you can to reduce it, those areas like safe spaces or hospitals will become fair game under international law if they're being used for military objectives. They lose their protective status. Just remember that when people are constantly saying, again, I'm not saying Israel is not making any mistakes here and there, but because I don't know, because I have to look at the evidence, but neither do you. You're just making the claim. Every time you see a safe space or somewhere being bombed, you're just assuming that something wrong has happened. Like, honestly, if a key Hamas leader is in that area, what should Israel do? Like, if taking somebody out would significantly push forward the military objectives and bring this war closer to an end, would you expect IDF to be like, well, they're in this area where we cannot bomb? Like, do a cost-benefit analysis. It's obviously reasonable to take that person out. Are you genuinely asking for states not to target terrorists as soon as they enter certain areas? Like, that's an unreasonable ask. Again, guys, you have to understand, international laws will not be taken seriously if you ask unreasonable things from countries. The only hope we have for a global order that we all feel more safe in is these international norms and regulations. If you make them so restrictive for states to be able to take out terrorists, then states will sign off. They will be like, okay, then the only reason why the international laws have any teeth at all is because countries sign up to them. There is no other way to make this work unless countries voluntarily sign up to them. If you tell countries like, oh, this guy that just came and did an act of genocide on your citizens, if they pass this line, you cannot hit them. This is a safe space, not just for civilians, but also the terrorists. Then be like, okay, then screw the international laws, and then we're all screwed. Again, this is not about protecting Israel. This is about protecting all of us. The reason why a lot of us are trying to defend Israel's right to protect itself, because we don't want these international laws to be turned into a freaking joke, because then all of us are screwed. So that was the first point. She keeps on talking about how frustrating this is, and it is frustrating. Civilians are dying, and children are dying. Mind you, when they use the word children, they use it dishonestly, but that's a different topic. But genuine, like actual children are dying, okay? A lot of them, and a lot of innocent people are dying. But it's partly because of you guys, because you are seeing Israel as a force of evil that needs to be fought against. Your encouragement, of this battle against imperialism or against this oppressive force is what's getting Palestinians killed. So again, the solution is for more Palestinians to recognize that this is an unwinnable battle. Unless we get to that point, they will continue to suffer. So if you are frustrated by this, as you should be, and you want to be part of the solution, don't ask Israel to stop defending itself. Ask the Palestinians to give up on the hope that they will be able to destroy Israel, because that will not happen. And that hope is not going to destroy Israel, but it's going to get Palestinians killed. So that's another point. She said this is the biggest injustice in history. Holy crap. This is not even the biggest injustice in our lifetime. This is not even the biggest injustice in the past decade. Like, again, I think this is because Jews are doing it. You guys see it as the biggest injustice. This is not even the biggest injustice against Muslims. I mean, where were you guys when Yemen was being bombarded? I mean, we were there. We were talking about it. I was yelling at my fellow ex-Muslims over this, okay? 6 years ago, before people were paying attention to Yemen, before even the United Nations was announcing the situation in Yemen to be the greatest humanitarian crisis of our lifetime, we were talking about it. We were defending Muslims here on Atheist Republic, on an anti-Islamic channel. We were defending Muslims in Yemen against the bombardment of Saudi Arabia before even most people were talking about it, before even mainstream media was heavily talking about it. about it. We, on Atheist Republic, we have defended the rights of Muslims in India, in China, and in Yemen on this Atheist Republic channel more than all the main Islamic channels combined, even though we are anti-Islam, especially in Yemen. I mean, it's the situation of Muslims in Yemen is astronomically worse than the situation of Muslims in Palestine. And you're completely blind to it. I'm not saying the Palestinian situation is great. People in Gaza are suffering, but the fact that you think that this is the biggest injustice in history shows how blind you are to everything. Why is it that you see this one? Is it because Jews are involved? Because I don't see other reasons. Somebody help me out here. Is it because there are Jews involved here? Oh, the last point that she made that I actually agree with, and this is a problem. She said, what are you turning us into? She said, you're making radicals out of us. You're making a generation of spiteful people. And you're right. This is a problem that Israel and the liberal world needs to take seriously. As just as Israel's response in Gaza is, the side effects are, like, the truth is that Israel is losing the media war. And Israel cannot afford to lose the media war. Israel is losing the media war. And we are seeing a new generation of Gen Z, of younger people who are radical, who are spiteful, who are anti-imperialist, anti-Zionist, anti-US, anti their own countries, anti-Western countries. And the footage that is coming out of Gaza is radicalizing them even more. So she was, everything she said almost was nonsense, other than the fact that what's happening in Gaza is frustrating. It's a tragedy. She's right about that. She just doesn't understand what's causing it. They are being radicalized, and we need to figure this out. We need to respond. We can't just respond to terrorism with bullets and tanks. But seriously, or do your own thing as well. Like, make your own channel. Like, you need to, like, why are you guys not on TikTok in the same way that these people are? Like, why is it that 9 out of 10 videos on Instagram and on TikTok anti-Israeli? Why are the people who are supporting Islam, the people who are supporting Hamas, the people who are supporting anti-Zionism, the people who are against Israel, the people who are against the world liberal order, the people who are anti-Western countries, why are they so active? And the people who are supposed to be supporting liberalism are falling asleep. Like, where the hell are you guys? Where is everybody? I think a lot of liberals don't defend liberalism because liberalism works and it just produces results. And a lot of people think like the results just speak for themselves. But apparently they don't. It's not enough. We need advocates for liberal values. We have a new generation of radicals. And these people vote. These people decide how the world's largest army that has godlike powers is going to be used. So yeah, you need to help us out in trying to de-radicalize these idiots.